She's a wee bit bigger than my last one. I've never thought of my boom lift as small until now. That's 32,000 pounds. That's 75,000 pounds. And it needs some work. You probably heard it squealing when I swing. I'm hoping it just needs greased. I don't think the guy was taking good care of it. If it needs a new swing bearing, that would stink. This cylinder leaks like crazy, and the bucket curl cylinder also leaks like crazy. So those are two cylinders that are going to get rebuilt. See, look at that. When I get it serviceable, I'm not going to like make it all pretty, but it's going to be ripping out stumps, knocking over trees, dredging ponds. Look at the size of that thing. I can't believe I own that. So she's a little rough around the edges. I think that glass looks perfect. It has 7,200 hours on it. You know, the machine runs really well, and the engine seems to be in good shape. Honestly, I think the machine is in pretty good shape. I mean, it's been in a scrap yard, and it's obvious running into stuff. The undercarriage looks good. Sprockets are not ragged out. And the chain is not all ragged out. Track pads, reasonable. All right, so this thing's been sitting here for a couple of months at least, and I have not done anything with it until today. I'm finally ready to get to work on this thing. The first thing that has to happen is fixing the leaky hydraulic cylinders. They leak so much that you're just dumping oil everywhere. I am gonna move it up to the shop. You have to be careful with this thing because you could easily hit power lines. You know, just retracting your boom, even though you're not extended at the stick, it's too high, you're gonna hit. And that's a little scary, actually. It's well grounded. That would be a bad day. Yeah, I'm actually not gonna go under the power lines. I'm going straight across that field and then up to my shop down there. Let's see if this thing's gonna start. Started right up. Well, the guy wasn't lying to me. He told me the thing fired right up all the time. I actually didn't realize it smoked quite this much. It only does it when you're doing a function, and of course when I'm doing that, I'm not looking at the exhaust stack. I actually did have to go under some power lines here, but I was careful to put the boom down and make sure I had plenty of clearance. It is hot. There used to be a fan in here. I wonder why. Hey there, welcome back to Farmcraft. Yeah, I bought that. Did I need it? No. The price was right, and I did it. I mean, I never thought I would have a machine this big, and already I have a lot of ideas on pretty cool stuff that I'm going to be doing with it. It's going to need a fair amount of work. So at some point I'm going to tell you what I paid for this machine. Of course, there are some things wrong with it, and whenever you buy used equipment, there's probably things wrong with it that you aren't able to determine right away. This is a Case 170B. I don't know where that numbering system comes from because this is a full-size excavator. This is big. 170 CKB. It weighs 32,000 kilograms. That's 75,000 pounds. It is 11 feet wide. So anytime you move this machine, you have to get a wide load permit and you have to get an overweight permit. And that's why people don't want them. This is the kind of machine you would have at a mining operation or some big construction site where the machine is not going to be moved often at all, once or twice a year at most. Otherwise, it's just not economical to be moving it all the time. Job sites like that are very intolerant of machines that break down, so when they get to the end of their life, they don't want them. And there aren't many other people that do want them. So, you know, for me, yes, I had to pay to transport this thing, and I had to pay a pretty penny to transport it. But I got it at a good price, so that was worth it to me, and I don't ever plan to transport it again. I'm hoping you can get a sense of just how big this machine is. I mean, I'm reaching as high as I can. I can't touch the top. This counterweight here This is a big weight that's on the back of excavators, so that when they have a lot of weight on the front, there's something to counter it so that the machine doesn't tip. And that counterweight right here, it weighs just over 10,000 pounds. There's the hydraulic oil tank. It's all oily, I think, because they just filled it. Because the thing's squirting oil out of those cylinders so fast, you have to fill it pretty much constantly. It has a 6-cylinder Deutz diesel that's air-cooled. That is widely considered to be a good engine and a long-lasting engine. So cross your fingers, hopefully I'll have that same experience. The fact that it's been leaking so much means the oil is all probably barely even used, and I doubt I will need to replace it. Probably just a matter of filling it up. And here's the other side of our engine: exhaust, fuel tank, more hydraulics, swing motor. I'm gonna get up in here at some point with a power washer and get this cleaned out as best I can. Maybe that gives you a little perspective. All of my equipment fits in here. My dump truck, my other excavator, bulldozer, everything fits in there just fine. This thing, you can forget it. So what's wrong with it? The swing bearing worries me. You don't see anything obvious. This track will occasionally come out from these rollers, and I'm not sure why. I mean, it seems that there's a decent amount of collar there to hold that on. I mean, it does have all this junk packed in here. I could clean that off, but I doubt that's the problem. It's supposed to have a high-speed drive, but it does not. Hopefully that's something I'm going to be able to fix. The other thing is, this has the other control pattern from what I learned on. Any of you out there able to change your control pattern after learning? It's worse than being a total noob, because you try to do things and the wrong thing happens constantly. You know, your brain is just wired that this is what's supposed to happen. You just can't do it. It would take months of practice for me to be able to do this thing correctly. And then I wouldn't be able to operate the backhoe on my tractor. So I need to fix that. There is no easy fix on this machine. I'm gonna have to swap pilot hoses, I believe. This cover plate is gone. I'm gonna need a new one of those. Or rather, I'm probably just going to make one of those. It doesn't need to be pretty, but I would like to have something on there. Well, it looks like we got a leak there too. Yeah, it seems to be coming from right in here where I see like brazing. Nice. And I don't think that hose is going to last too much longer. And then there's a couple little things. The throttle won't stay on full. It's a push down throttle, and you're supposed to be able to twist it to lock it in place, and it doesn't lock at full. It'll lock at like 3/4 throttle. So I'm gonna have to take that apart and figure out what's going on there. This door doesn't latch. I'm not sure how it was supposed to latch originally, but so I'm gonna have to come up with something for that. And I need a fan in there. I need to do my maintenance. I need to check the oils. And one thing I think I'm gonna do with this machine, one of my patrons gave me some oil test kits. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And I'm going to take oil samples of the hydraulic oil, the engine oil, and I'm going to send them off to a lab and just see how things look. I don't trust hour meters a whole lot, but that one says 7,200 hours. It could be accurate. It could also be 17,000 for all I know. The thumb has issues. These pins I don't think have anything to retain them. Yeah, that pin is strapped in place and that pin is coming out. So I need to do something about those. Lots to do on this machine. First step, let's figure out how we're going to get these hydraulic cylinders dealt with. So there, I think you can see what I mean. I mean, it pours off of that cylinder, and this thing's been sitting here. I'm not even using it right now. And you know, even though I've done big cylinders in my boom lift, this is going to be challenging. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do here. I'm really going to try not to take them off the machine and just pull the rod, but that might be tough. All right, guys, I've been thinking about this for a while now on how I want to do these cylinders. I've been replacing pig mats steadily. It just continues to drip. This has to be fixed. The cylinders are huge. I'm sure they're not coming across on camera. That cylinder is 7 inches across on the barrel. The rod is 3 3/4. To give you a little perspective, the main boom lift cylinder on my boom lift is the biggest girth cylinder I've ever dealt with. And it was 8 inches with a 3-inch rod. So the rods are actually bigger on this. There's no chance of me being able to handle that rod by hand. This is all going to be done with equipment. You can change out the rod and the seals and everything, leaving the barrel attached to the machine. That's originally what I thought I was going to do. When that rod comes out, oil is going to go everywhere. It is going to be a total mess. Then I'm going to have to get seals. That's probably going to take me a few days at least. I might be mail ordering these, but I need to get them first and see what I'm dealing with. So then I've got this barrel that is open to the environment hanging on my excavator. I could shove something up in there, but if we get like a rainstorm or something, it just doesn't seem like a good idea. So then, like, how do I get it back together? I could definitely get the rod out. I know I can do that. How do I put it back in? I'm gonna have piston seals that I have to push up in there and not damage anything. Yeah, I can use my excavator to do the heavy lifting. I'm gonna end up scratching the chrome and messing it up, trying to put it back in like that, messing up the seals that I had to wait days to get. I think if I just take the lines off and take the cylinder all the way off, then I can bring it down underneath there. I can take it apart underneath there like I've done with big cylinders before. In fact, that $50,000 cylinder I did on my boom lift, the really long one, was a lot harder than these will be. And I can manage the oil and, you know, not just make a mess of everything. I don't know, maybe I'm making a mistake to think taking it all the way off is gonna be easier. Let me know what you think. I'm gonna take that cylinder off of there, and that one too. I'm spraying the other side too while I'm here. Yep. What do I do about that? Pig mats, lots of them. This thing's gonna fight me every step of the way. What do you expect? All right, one bolt out. So I don't have anything to cap these lines with. What I do have though is a bucket, and I just made a pretty big mess. Not too bad, could have been worse. Can always be worse. Don't believe me? Keep watching. You know what I can say is the oil actually looks nice and clean, so that's good. Yeah, it's already slowing down. It's not that much. Now that's the first time I've ever hooked a bucket on a hydraulic line like that. But I bet I'm not the first one to do it. I bet you there's a lot of heavy equipment mechanics out there who are like, yep, do that. So I actually did find a rubber stopper for that, and then also one for that. So let's go do the other side. This is the retract side, and the gland seals have been leaking So there's not much oil in this side, I don't think. Come on, Pig Matt. Man, when you're dealing with a lot of spilled oil, these things are so much better than just a regular rag. Yeah, I got my bucket from the other side. That's the best I can do. Still a mess. Dozer, put your pants on, man. What the heck happened to your pants? So Dozer, turns out, had a problem with his knees. That is rare. It's a large breed dog kind of thing. Apparently not usually genetic. It's called distal femoral valgus. Essentially, there are two growth plates at the end of the femur, and one of them was growing more than the other, so the femur was twisting. So we had to have a surgery done where they went in and they basically pinned one of the growth plates, the one that was growing too fast, so that the other one can catch up. And then once his knees straighten out, we have to go take those pins out. And at that point, most of his growing will be done, and hopefully his knees will be straight and will remain straight. I'm not one of those people that's crazy and puts tons of money into dogs, but I've never had this come up with a puppy. I mean, he's a puppy. He's got his whole life ahead of him. Just can't let the poor guy suffer when I can shell out some money and hopefully fix it. So get your tail, Dozer. Get your tail. So yeah, Dozer had surgery and they took his pants off. He needs to grow some new pants. Now I've got the cylinder chained to the excavator, so I need to take the upper pin out, and it is held in place with this little retainer clip. A smarter person would have remembered to bring a tool for this. And now just pounding it out from the other side. Probably shouldn't leave that thing poised up there ready to smack me on the head. What do you think? That would hurt, hitting you in the head. Now I'm removing the retainer from the bottom pin and pounding it out. So I didn't have to fight with it too much. The only additional work was getting the lines all the way off as opposed to just cracking them. But the mess would have just been awful. I don't see how I wouldn't have just gallons of oil spewed all over the place. I mean, it was bad enough, but That would have been nothing compared to emptying that giant cylinder out onto that bucket and all over the ground. Yeah, I think this is a good call. Plus now I get to pull into the shade and cover and work in here. That'll be much more enjoyable. Yep, still leaking. You know, one thing I really meant to do before I took those pins out, especially the top pin, was crack this gland nut loose. Hopefully that's not going to be too much of a struggle. Come on, baby. It's obvious on camera that this thing moves, but when you're the one swinging the hammer and getting shock loaded, it's hard to tell. And I wasn't sure at first, until right around here, I think. Hell yeah, it is. How easy that gland moves. So the barrel is ratchet strapped to the tractor so it can't fall over. So I'm going to actually bring the hoist down, tighten the chain, and then I ought to just be able to pull it out. The part of the barrel that's behind the piston, now that I'm pulling the piston out, is in negative pressure. I heard this thing gurgling. I know there's oil in there. There's got to be more than just that. Maybe not, but I bet there is. So I think the negative pressure is what's keeping it from coming out right now. And as soon as that piston actually comes out, I think this thing's going to be a little geyser. Not sure what to do about it. Yeah, there it comes. As good a time as any to get a hydraulic oil sample. So it turns out the hoist was just barely not tall enough, so I had to lower it all the way back down. I'm supporting it with this bar on the tractor, and then I had to reset the hoist up higher and then reattach the chain. And while it wasn't attached to the hoist, this happened. Good times. But I did finally get it reset, and I was able to completely pull the rod out. Yeah, all those lines on the walls, that's just oil. And I see no scratches, no rust. Everything looks good in there. Since we got our hydraulic oil sample, let's go ahead and get an engine oil sample now. Just hook on this little suction pump, pull the dipstick, and get your sample. So we got some clean tubing here. And I did just run the engine. I am going to change this oil no matter what, but I want to see what's in it. And we'll package that up and send it off to the lab.
Alright, so there is a set screw in there and a pin behind it that pins this entire piston onto the rod. So when I take that set screw out, this thing should unscrew, hopefully without a lot of effort. Let's see. Well, that screw was kind of disturbingly loose.
I tried a magnet, but that would be too easy. How about a coarse threaded screw? I tried tapping the piston in both directions to see if I could get it to loosen up on the pin and allow it to come out.
This pin, I found that a 1032 bolt will thread into it. So hopefully, with all of that and then a slide hammer, I can yank that thing out of there. And there you have it. Gotta love the slide hammer. The instructions in the service manual says, remove the pin. Who writes these instructions? Why don't you just say the pin accepts a 1032 bolt? Because yeah, I mean with a bolt you could, there's any number of ways, but just knowing what the thread is helps so much.
Go ahead and get the wear bands off. I see scoring all along it, so I think those definitely need to be replaced. Modern wear bands are made of a different material. This feels like it's just nylon or something. Interesting, that's brass, or some kind of brass alloy. Wow, those are loose too. So that has one of those preload rings behind it. This pushes the seal out against the wall. Second one I think I'm just going to cut because I can measure the first one. Things are tough. Okay, now is this thing going to unscrew? And how am I going to do that? This is a brass punch. See if we can't get it to turn. I think it moved it all. Yeah, that's not moving at all. Come on, John, you know it's not going to be that easy.
Yeah, those are 1/2 inch.
First attempt, I've got a lever in that eye, and the pins are kind of loose. But let's see if this will cooperate. Yeah, that's what I figured. Answer, not even close. I need to figure out a way that I can hold it down, and I'm probably going to need to actually like drill holes and weld these in so that they're properly attached. Darn it. So I'm going to zero my X, and then I need to go 3.5 inches. When you've got a digital readout, it's easier to go back and forth than change bits and stay at one hole. You know, it would be nice if I didn't actually have to weld those in. So I want them to stick out 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is take a punch and peen it a little bit in this area so that it tightens up. Yeah, that tightened it right up. Quite enough. It'd be nice not to weld it, is because I might want to adjust the length a little bit. Once I weld it, I can't do that anymore. Yeah, let's see if that'll hold. Got it. That's what we wanted.
Wow. There's your problem. I have never seen a seal that looks that bad.
That is one ugly seal.
3 wear bands.
I got some seal catalogs, and I wanted to be able to match these seals up and just order them myself. But they're so torn up, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to identify what they are. That's a backup ring and an O-ring, isn't it? Yeah. It's got a concave side. So does that one. O-ring in between. Here's the rest of the piston seals. So that's all of them. Wiper. These wear bands didn't look horrible. And the seal. Look at that seal. That is, without a doubt, the worst seal I've ever seen. So this seal originally was all one piece, and now it's just coming out in pieces. There was an O-ring embedded in it that is still intact. Totally disintegrated. But the rest of it's just falling apart around it. It'd be hard for me to figure out what kind of seal that was, because there's just nothing left of it for me to see the profile. I'm going to end up measuring, just getting a seal that will work in this groove. And then we've got an O-ring and a backup ring here. And another O-ring. So now we get to try and figure out what these parts are, especially this seal. Well, I had hopes that I was going to be able to go through a seal catalog and be able to figure out what seals these are. But I am not having any luck, and it's very difficult with that one seal just being destroyed. I could get the wiper and the wear bands and stuff like that, but that seal's the main thing that I need. So I'm going to go to the hydraulics shop and see what they come up with. The good news is the wear bands on the gland all measure exactly the same. I think even though you can see tiny little scrapes, I don't think there's any significant wear on these things. So I'm going to reuse those. And before I go to the shop, I'm going to try to get that other cylinder off and torn apart, and maybe it will have a more intact gland seal to help match this thing up.
So for pretty much the same reasons, I'm going to take this one off too. This one, it would definitely be easier to deal with pulling the rod out and the oil, because I could put a big trash can underneath it. See, I've got room right under where it'll be hanging to try to catch oil.
But again, I don't see a good way of getting it back in there and not screwing it up in the process.
It turns out these hydraulic fittings are no longer available. I don't even know what they're called. Has anyone ever seen fittings like this? They're a flanged type fitting similar to a CAT code 61 or code 62, but only 2 bolts, and they've got this little ferrule in the middle. Anyway, that's a problem for future John. We're not going to worry about that right now.
How do you do it without making a mess? You do the best you can, but you're going to spill some oil. At least I am. Well, I think that was easier than the last one. All right, so now you can probably tell by my tone, I don't know what I'm doing. I wish I knew what I was doing. I am going to pull that bottom pin out of there, and we're gonna let this thing swing down. I have the grease line that I need to get apart at the top still, but that'll be easier once it swings down. Then it's gonna be taking that top pin off, which obviously I'm gonna have to do some prying because there's nowhere to swing at it with a sledge. It actually worked. Occasionally it happens. That grease line I was talking about. Wow, it looks like it's going to cooperate too. My coordination isn't. Oh. Now we just have the little issue of getting that out of there. All right, I just got to get the tension off of that, and then I can get a crowbar and pry. Wow. It's a little scary. What could go wrong? Yeah. Well, it worked. This must look rather ridiculous, I think. Maybe a thumbnail. I did not lay this down and dump the oil out of that chamber. So this is probably gonna make a mess, but it's on concrete, I can clean it up. I got pig mats. I don't care. There it is. Oh, good grief. Note to self, don't fill it up that much. Still can't get it out. So if I had this to do again, I would have set the cylinder down inside this. Yeah, see, it's too big. Get the rest of it out of there. It's ridiculous. I'd still much rather have this here than over there in the grass. This I can clean up. Might be the biggest mess I've ever made. Definitely the messiest hydraulic cylinder I've ever done. Can you say pig mats? Well, that was stupid. That was a lot of needless work cleaning up all that oil. Pig mats are great, but that was still a lot of oil. You know, for a regular cylinder, that would have been fine, but these are anything but regular, at least to me. These things are like the size of a hydraulic tank. Yeah, I should have drained them. I should have 100% had a plan to drain them out. It's almost all out, so there's not really much point in doing anything else at this point. So yeah, don't do that. Ugh. What I can see looks okay. It looks like it needs to be cleaned. How did I get so much crud in it? That's gonna be fun. But no scratches, no rust. That's what you want to see. Oh, that one just came right out. I'm afraid this gland seal is going to look every bit as bad as the other one did, but let's see. Oh yeah. Totally disintegrated. It's crazy. An interesting thing here, a bunch of pitting on both the piston and the gland that the other one did not have. The barrel looked okay. I'm going to have to check it again and just make sure that there isn't pitting or something in there. But, you know, I don't know. Maybe they rebarreled it at some point. Or maybe it only damaged this. But, you know, it doesn't look new. There's no rust on it now. I think whatever did this was already dealt with in a previous rebuild. So guys, I admit it, I thought I could take both of these cylinders off, take them apart, rebuild them, put them back together, and put them back on the machine in one video. Obviously, that's not going to happen. In my experience, you estimate how long you think a job's going to take, you double it, and you might be close. So next week, we're going to get our new seals, put it back together. I'm also going to cover how I could have ordered these seals from a catalog, We're going to do some rod repair and some more farmer engineering to get this thing back in action. There is a pile of work to do on this machine. After I get these cylinders fixed, I still need to address the swing bearing. I need to fix the high-speed drive. I need to change the control pattern. I need to make a new cover plate. I need to fix some hoses. I need to do the general maintenance, change the oil, the filters. I need to fix the throttle. I need to address the pins on the thumb, fix the door latch, and fix the fan. That's all I can think of right now. I'm sure there will be more. So obviously there's plenty more to come on this machine. I'm going to have to come up with a name for this big boy. Leave a comment if you have any ideas, and thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.